Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope you guys are going to have a great Monday. Don't forget, Monday night is, of course, our live stream will be 9 o'clock Eastern, talking about what else the Dallas Cowboys. Is there anything else to talk about besides the Dallas Cowboys? I think not. So we've got our first preseason game under the belt. We've, of course, looked at some of the great players and things. And this morning when I woke up, I started thinking, which is always a scary thing, I started thinking about the Dallas Cowboys because you see, Deuce Vaughn looks like he could be the real deal. Now, again, let's preface our expectations a little bit here, because what happens is we go by a preseason game, and preseason game, understand, teams aren't game planning, okay? You're not necessarily taking first against first and stuff. There's a big difference on our defense when we have D-Law, Micah Parsons, Diggs, and Gallimore out there than we had with the guys we had. Although we were going against the Jaguars, first team guys, and we did pick off Trevor Lawrence the first play, even though they don't talk about that. But be that as it may, what you want from preseason is you want to get some work in. You want to see what some of the guys can do, some of the younger guys that, trying to make the roster. And you also want to get out healthy. Excuse me. I got a little tickle in my throat there. Now, it hit me this morning, the difference between the Dallas Cowboys versus the Eagles. The Eagle fans, and especially Philly 500. Philly 500 will tell you that everybody that the Eagles sign is going to be the next great player, the next Hall of Famer, so to speak. He is going to go crazy about all these players that they bring in. And I have to say that Howie Roseman, I'm giving you credit, Eagles, okay? Because see, all you always say is I'm always talking bad about the Eagles. I said Jalen Carter's first play, it was a great play. One-on-one, he beat his man, okay? He shocked him, rocked the guy back, and ended up going around him and chased the quarterback. Great move. But I'll also say that I look at my man, Mazi Smith, who was going against the double team, shed the block, and then made the tackle for a loss. So, those both look good. But there are no guarantees that that's what you're going to get during the season and so on. I remember Jordan Davis, his first preseason game last year. First 5 plays, looked dominant, and he was okay. I don't know that he is a top 25 under 25 like they're saying, because he kind of sucked wind after those first 5 plays. But be that as it may, the difference of the Dallas Cowboys is the Eagles are not as good at drafting. They're just not. They struck gold getting A.J. Brown. That incredible move. You can't look at that and say it was a bad move. But the reason they had to do that was they sucked ass at actually drafting wide receivers. They tried year after year after year drafting guys in the first and second round to be wide receivers. Devontae Smith, finally, after missing about 3 times, may be good. But he may also be a product of having A.J. Brown. They have to go out and sign other players, because you look at what they've got as far as drafting. Now, Carson Wentz was a Pro Bowler his second season, but beyond that, you have to go back to 2015 for Lane Johnson as their first round picks that are actually made the Pro Bowl. You can literally look at the Cowboys almost guaranteed having their draft picks, their first round draft picks, being a Pro Bowl. I believe Mazi Smith will be one at some point. I definitely believe he will. I look at it and say, that guy, as a rookie coming in who was practicing as a guard, had to take over at left tackle, was a damn good move. I look at it and I say, we got a Micah Parsons in the draft. Could be generational and one of the best of all times. Could be. I said, I didn't say he was. I said could be. You look at CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb. We drafted him. You look at Diggs, drafted him in the second round. And even beyond that, when you start seeing some of the undrafted guys that we end up finding, the Peyton Hendershots, the Tony Romos, the Terrence Steeles, the Cowboys, the difference is, and we get sucked into this because we look at it and say, oh my God, the Eagles just signed Miles Jack. Well, quite frankly, the Miles Jack signing was probably going to end up being kind of like the Anthony Barr signing. Miles Jack is not the same guy he was. And the Eagles realize the cupboard is bare right now at linebacker. They drafted Nakobe Dean, looking at him and saying, oh, Nakobe Dean. But now you kind of question and say, is he as good as what the Eagle fans thought? So that's why they've got to go outside to find somebody else. Typically, the Dallas Cowboys, we don't sign a lot of big-name free agents. But when we do, well, we don't sign big-name free agents. But what we do is we find guys that fit what we are doing. We don't just go for name guys. In fact, you look at guys, because most of the time when we sign people like J-Ron Curse, people are like, oh shit, here we go again. Cowboys don't care about winning. They're not going for the name players. And my question is, the Eagles did fantastic last year. All right, let's be clear here. The Eagles did fantastic last year in free agency and signing guys. They just did. They killed it. I've never seen a team do so well with that. And I'm giving you credit, Eagles. But that's the exception. That's not the rule when it comes to signing free agents. It just is not the case very often. They did great. You got to applaud them. I don't want to, but you do. But you look at this Dallas Cowboys team, and as you see, Overshown looks like the real deal. Again, it's still the first preseason game. You look at Mozzie Smith. Eagle fans and people will tell you that he's a bust because he had one tackle. You know what? The reason why your linebackers did so well is because Mozzie Smith was taking on double teams every time. Very rarely have we had somebody that required you to be double teamed other than Micah Parsons. And if that guy, because here's where you got to look at it and say, if Mozzie Smith has to be double teamed on a regular, that means it's going to be really hard to double Micah Parsons as well.
It will look like it. Here's the point.
Sorry.
Saturday was also.
Sorry. And if you have to double Micah Parsons and Mozzie Smith, you're done. You're done. There's no way. And that's why you get a Mozzie Smith. And you look at it and say, that guy came in, played the whole game, and it's hard for a fat guy to play a whole game. Held his own in double teams, needs to be a little quicker off the ball. But for a first game, looked good. You look at Deuce Vaughn. Deuce, 6th-round draft pick. Explosive, elusive. Looks to be a good pick. So you start to see Cowboy players, Jalen Tolbert from the year before. You look at it and say, okay, now you're showing me something. And that's where the Cowboys and we as fans always get upset because we're like, oh, we didn't get this guy, we didn't get that guy. The Cowboys do a lot of things wrong, but getting talent and finding talent is not one of them. So we'll see where that goes. Let's check out, of course, Get Up this morning and see what they have to say about the Cowboys preseason game. I'm going to tell you that one thing, and I'll elaborate more later on this one. We've heard Mike McCarthy say, I just want to run the ball. We passed the ball 43 times to 22 rushes. 2-1. Yeah, we're still low tech here. We're still low tech here while we're working on the red brick house, but you can kind of feel it coming. Let's see what they have to. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen it, but I want to see what they have to say about the Cowboys. Okay, see if they say anything about Trevor Lawrence and his interception. Okay, let's see if they talk about that or what. So we'll see if we get any praise.
The first time we got to see the Cowboys' new offense being called by Mike McCarthy, they ended up throwing on 66% of their plays. releasing the ball on average less than 2.5 seconds per pass, which was the fourth quickest release time this week. And so, Dominique, explain for the layperson, I mean, those of us who did not play or coach pro football, what you were telling us in our meeting this morning about what you think might be a big change in the Dallas offense this year.
Well, it seems like, from what I understand, they're moving to more like traditional West Coast style of offense, which means that they're going to be a lot more synced up on timing, which takes away some of the flexibility and like improvisational hookup that you might see between a player like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. I think if this is a reaction to the to the interceptions last year, it's definitely an overreaction. And I suspect that Mike McCarthy's going to want to have more control of the offense. One of the best things that I thought Dak Prescott did in previous seasons was get them out of bad plays and into the best play in that situation. If they're looking to reduce turnovers and simplify the game, I think they're going to take some of that from Dak too, which I think would be a mistake.
So, Orlovsky, two questions. Do you expect the offense to look that significantly different? And if so, is that a good idea?
It'll look different. I don't think it's going to be significantly different. I think that it plays to CeeDee Lamb's strength. You know, last year some of those interceptions were because too many choice routes and they weren't being on the same page. I don't care about Mike McCarthy's play calling in the preseason. I don't pay attention to units. I pay attention to individual performance. Deuce Vaughn has been awesome. I have said this and I'll say it again. My concern out of Dallas is that everything is about don't turn the football over, don't turn the football over, don't turn the football over. Dak has been historically great on that. For people who think Dan Orlovsky's a Dak Prescott hater, no, I'm not. I don't want him, because I've watched Matthew Stafford, who's one of the most aggressive players ever with the football. I've watched him shell up when all of it is don't give the ball away, don't give the ball away, I'm not going to give the ball away. You got to go beat Philly and San Francisco. You got to go beat Seattle. You got to go beat Detroit. There's going to be a really good team. So, I think that
Philly on a regular.
Timing matters for every pass game, but I agree with Doc. I think one of the things that Dak does really well is get to the line of scrimmage, use his mind to see what defenses are doing, not necessarily get us out of bad plays. Don, to your point, he does that, but get us into great plays, and I don't want them to take that away from him.
Real quick, Danny, I mean, your sense of that, is it look that different?
I think it will. I'm concerned, as Dan is, about, are they overreacting to last year's turnover issues, which have never been a problem before? And if that's the case, I wonder if they'll be less effective offensively.
All right, well, much more to say about them as we go. Noah is here, so it's time for...
Okay, all right, so typically we get what we get with them, okay? Speeding up the offense, great thing. Timing routes. It's going to help the offensive line because they're not having to hold up for 5-6 seconds. Okay, that's hard to do. But if you're talking about 2.6 seconds, boom, that's a great thing. It doesn't matter. This is what I realize when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. It does not matter what they do. It's always the wrong thing, according to the talking heads. It always is the wrong thing. So it's best probably not to listen, but I always like to listen. I just do. It's kind of like my guilty pleasure. Because I know these mother humpers are going to be wrong. See you guys tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, here from the Red Brick House. And if you want to follow along, this place changes daily. And we're getting closer and closer to having occupancy. I can't wait. I'm excited. And I got to get my railings on before it starts raining by 2 o'clock. So we're going to move this party outside. See you there. Peace.